Hi everyone, it's Shari Carroll from simonsystamp.com, and I'm doing a 5 ways to add texture to your projects using pastes. I've chosen 5 different pastes that I'll be working with, and these are more of the specialty type pastes. So I'm starting off with the Ranger texture paste. One is a gloss and one is a matte. My focus is more on the texture that you'll be getting from these pastes, so I'll be using the matte texture paste for a couple of my projects and be adding some glitter to one. Also, another paste that I'll be using is the translucent embossing paste, and this is a really shiny paste in comparison to the matte paste of the texture paste. I'll also be using the Vicky silver paste and also the black paste. So I'm going to get started and show you how these look once you put them onto cardstock. To have a consistent comparison through all these pastes, I'll be using some slate cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, and I've just cut that out in a circle. I'm starting off with the texture paste, which is the matte finish, and I'll go ahead and open that lid and scoop some out. This is a little bit thinner paste and not quite as fluffy as some of the other embossing paste that you may be using. So this is almost like a really heavy glue, and you can kind of tell that it's a little bit gummy when it goes on, and it goes on kind of translucent, and you spread it like you do your regular paste. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth this out a little bit, and then once I'm done smoothing that out, I'm going to go ahead and lift up my stencil, and you'll be able to see the contrast. It does look quite white onto this cardstock, but it dries really clear. When I'm using a smaller piece of paper than my stencil, I add a little bit of adhesive to the back, and then I'll just use my knife and go underneath it and then lift it off my paste. Now I can go ahead and clean up my surface. When using your texture and embossing paste, you'll want to clean off your stencil and knife right away with just plain water or a baby wipe. Once the transparent matte dried, it gave me a really nice embossed look, and it also preserved the color of my cardstock underneath. This is great for a tone-on-tone texture. I've used the same transparent matte finish for the second piece here, and while the paste is still wet, I'll be using some distressed dry glitter, and this is the rock candy. And so I'll just go ahead and open this jar out and sprinkle it on top. I don't have to worry about any static or anything. I can go ahead and brush that off once everything is dry. So I'll use my tweezers here, and I'll go ahead and lift that off and tap off the excess. I can see that I need a little bit more glitter here, and I'm trying to find a tool, but I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle it with my fingers so that I can get the whole piece covered here. Now I can go ahead and tap the excess off from the back, and I'll let this sit to dry. I've used an extra piece of printer paper to use under my glitter here. And to clean up, it's really quick and easy. I'll just go ahead and use that as a funnel and put everything back in the jar. The glitter really stuck to the paste really nicely, and it did give me kind of a gray look underneath because it was clear. This is a really quick and easy technique if you like to add a little shine to your cards. The next paste I'm using is the Vicky translucent embossing paste, and it has a slightly different feel to it. It's a little bit thicker or stiffer, but it still spreads out really nicely. So you would use this just like your regular paste. You go ahead and scoop some out and spread it throughout the stencil. I like to go back over with the edge of the knife to make everything smooth. So once I have that down, I can go ahead and remove the stencil. You can see that's quite white onto that cardstock. And I'll go ahead and lift this up and move it out of the way. And I'll let this sit and dry, and then I'll go ahead and clean up my surface. This dries really super clear, and you can see how sharp the stencil edges are. This paste is very similar to the Ranger transparent glossy paste, as it dries really shiny and clear. The next paste I am using is the Vicky black paste, and this one is really fluffy, so it gives me a lot of dimension, and it's really concentrated with color. It is so super black. So I'll just go ahead and scoop this out and go ahead and spread it onto my cardstock through that stencil, and then go ahead and smooth it out using the edge of my knife. And when I lift the stencil, you can see how really black it is compared to the really dark gray cardstock. You really want to clean up your paste up because of all the color, but I'll grab an edge here and go ahead and release that a little bit, and then lift this off and put it off to the side to dry. This is one of my favorite pastes, and I don't think I've ever done it on colored cardstock, but it reminds me of like stamped velvet. I really do like the whole texture and the really nice dark black. The final paste that I'm using is the Wendy Vicky Metallic Silver. I always choose silver over gold, and I thought this would look really nice on the gray. So when I scoop this out, it reminds me a lot of the transparent type paste, where it's a little bit stiffer. And it's really easy to spread, and it almost looks like it's white paste when I'm spreading this out. But you can really see the metallic in here, and I'm anxious to see how this looks once it's dry. But I'll go ahead and add this to my cardstock through that stencil, and then I'll go ahead and smooth it out with the edge of my knife really well. And once I lift the stencil, you can really see the contrast between the cardstock and the silver metallic. And it's even really pretty while it's still wet. Once this dried, it seemed to have smoothed itself out. It almost looks like I used silver embossing powder with a stamp. I hope I've given you some insight and inspiration on how to use some of the specialty pastes. And as always, thanks for watching.